Can you hear me? Yes, okay, good. So this might be an attendance record. So you're going to have to do the work of like 3 times the number of people. But let's see how we get on. Okay, so yeah, my name's Pete. Do an introduction here. I can see it down there. Okay, right, let me just arrange this. There we go. I might run over time as well, we'll see. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about who I am, a bit about building the audio team at Machine Games, because that's something that people don't often talk about, is who's actually involved in building the game and how that develops over time. A bit about understanding the IP, what we had to deal with, like getting to know the IP and understanding what we were building. Some stuff about music and some stuff about sound effects and recordings, which is the stuff that I like the most. And a bit about cinematics, and also added for this presentation about mixing in Dolby Atmos for home theatre, which was our kind of spatial audio target format. A few key learnings for me as an audio director on this game, and then if we've got time, a bit of Q&A. So let's go. So who am I? I'm not him, but I am Pete, audio director at Machine Games. I graduated about 300 years ago from a university in the UK called the University of Surrey, and I did music and sound recording, which was heavily focused on orchestral recording and band recording and that kind of stuff. I've been doing this for 21 years, which is a bit scary when I look at that, because it doesn't feel like it. And I've been mainly working in sound design, sound simulation, propagation, like how sounds travel around spaces, systems design and implementation, mixing things and fixing things as well. So I'm more on the technical side, a bit creative, but more kind of focused on technical stuff. And I've worked on a variety of games with a huge long stint in racing, and then moved to Sweden 12 years ago. My Swedish still isn't very good. I'm working on it. So I've worked on these things. As you can see, there's a lot of racing content there. Started in kind of action-adventure games, a couple of sports games as well, then racing a lot. And then I've worked a bit on Battlefield, doing vehicle design and implementation, and then Indiana Jones for the last 4 or 5 years. So a bit about building a team at Machine Games. When I started in April 2021, so yeah, this month is my 5-year anniversary there. There was me, there was a VO designer, there were 4 sound designers, and there was an audio programmer. And I started and thought, this probably isn't quite big enough to build the audio for this game, because it's going to be a big game. So we immediately hired a couple more people, a technical sound designer, and another generalist sound designer as well, and an audio programmer. And 2 of those people I knew from a previous workplace as well. So we already got on, which is quite nice. By 2022, we'd engaged a cinematics vendor because we had about 240 minutes maybe of cinematics in the game, which when I think about it is a very long feature film inside the game that was also already very big that we had to build. We had a VO designer still. We employed a junior VO designer as well, so we had 2 VO designers at that point. There were a couple of promotions there as well, and then we had some help from our sister studio, Arcane, in Lyon, because they just finished work on one of their previous games, the name of which now I can't remember. It'll come to me in a second. So then by 2023, a few more promotions. Cinematics vendor was still in progress. We were then contracting a sound designer as well, because our workload was just piling up hugely. And then we had help from Bethesda Game Studios, because they just finished work on Starfield at that point. So they were helping us out on Indiana Jones as well. And then in the shipping year, we had a bit of change here and there. So we had a VO designer on a short-term contract, the sound designer from Bethesda Game Studios still, and another senior sound designer joined us, and we had a contract ongoing as well. So yeah, it just gives you an idea of the kind of not too much churn, but the kind of development of the team as we went through the project. So then we had to understand the IP, so what we were actually doing. So we had to really understand what makes Indiana Jones Indiana Jones. So really we had to break that down and work out the key things, and it was the voice. So Harrison Ford is like indelibly associated with Indiana Jones. So sort of his voice and mannerisms is Indy. And we had in the game a variety of locations and cultures as well, just as they do in the films, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, they go off to Egypt and they go to various other places around the world. And we were intending to have a similar arrangement for our game. So being able to accurately represent those cultures and locations was really important to us. Music, obviously, everyone knows the Raiders March. It's one of the most famous film themes that's been written. So we wanted to include that. I felt like if we didn't have that in the game, and various quotes from that in the game and various bits of music that we made, then it wouldn't really be an Indiana Jones game. That's kind of a core part of the game. Overall, we wanted John Williams-style composition, orchestration, and recording to get that kind of authenticity goal. And then on the sound effects side, there's the famous whip sound, obviously, the swishes and the cracks, the punching and the combat style, very kind of slapstick, quite cartoony in a way. The revolver, Indy's massive hand cannon, and various other guns. And then in some of the films, there's also quite a lot of creepy crawlies and fantastical elements that go on as well. So we wanted to have kind of elements of that in there too. And then a little bit about working with Lucasfilm Games, because they're obviously the IP holder, Lucasfilm. So they were very interested in what we were doing and what we were up to. So we had regular syncs with the Lucasfilm Games team, the audio team and the production team, which was very intimidating at first, actually, because like this is Lucasfilm we were talking about, and I hadn't really worked with an IP holder like that before. So yeah, it was quite scary at first, but they were very accommodating and very friendly, very reassuring in a way, and I'll talk about that as well. But they provided access to original recordings from their archives, so we had access to all the whip content, all the punches, all the revolver, various additional effects and everything. There were only about, I'm going to get this wrong now, and Lucasfilm's probably going to get angry at me, but I think there were only about 8 or 10 actual whip sounds in the films. So we needed to obviously make a lot more content than that, because we can crack the whip in all sorts of different locations and under different circumstances. So we used those sounds. We didn't use them directly, but we used them as reference and remade our own sounds and made them interactive and sort of brought them up to modern standards as well. We had regular music and cinematics reviews with them. So we would package up like batches of cinematics to send to them, get notes back, work on the notes, send them again, that sort of stuff. And we'd also get regular game build feedback and reassurance, because we felt like we didn't know what we were doing. We did really, but it felt like we were completely new to this. And they were very reassuring. Said, "Yep, this is going well. Have you thought about this thing? This sounds really good. This needs some work." And they were just very direct and very open about all that stuff. So it was really good to work with them. And it took me not that long really, but I realised that we all wanted to make this game really great as much as we could. They weren't going to come down like us on a ton of bricks because we got something wrong. They were going to help us make it better. We all just wanted to make it really good. So a bit about music. I have no idea how the time is doing compared with how much I've got left, so let's see how we do. So first of all, we needed to set a direction and find a composer, because music was a huge part of the game. So the direction really was, and I sort of unashamedly stole this from Ben Minto, who used a very similar thing for Star Wars Battlefront at EA a few years before. But I wanted to have a Lost Indiana Jones soundtrack you just haven't heard yet. So I wanted it to compare favourably if you listened to Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom or The Last Crusade. I wanted our soundtrack to be comparable with that. But also, obviously, to make it interactive because it's a game. So we wanted to emulate John Williams' style in composition, orchestration, and recording as well. And we did scoring for linear cinematics, about 240 minutes of cinematics, all the interactive gameplay, and then some diegetic jazz cues as well, which were kind of interwoven in the story. We also had a bunch of other diegetic cues in different places in the world, like there's a guy with an oud in Giza, and there's someone playing the flute in Sukhothai, and we wanted those diegetic music moments to be authentic in those spaces as well. So we had Gordy Harb on board by late 2021. There was a lot of kind of contract signing and statement of works and all that fun stuff. But he was on board fairly early. And we also had the John Williams licensing needs identified by about the same time, because we wanted to use the Raiders March, so we had to have that licensed. And we wanted to license some additional themes as well, like we use Marion's theme in a few places, which is really important for the story. And we also use a lot of the first level is set in Peru, and we use a lot of that Peru scoring from Raiders of the Lost Ark in our game, because it's a kind of an homage to that part of the film. So that will have to be licensed, and we re-recorded that as well. We also had some additional licensing for some classical radio content, so we used Naxos for that, who were really helpful. There's a lot of Wagner and Verdi in the game, but that all had to be licensed as well. So we started off with theme exploration. The original film scores are very thematic. There's a lot of leitmotifs, a lot of very, very famous tunes now. But we wanted strong themes for our main characters, so Gina and Voss, and some locations like the Vatican, the Nephilim as an order of, I won't give away any details, but the Nephilim, and the Great Circle itself, which is the kind of whole conceit of the story. And we had to work on that first, because if we got that right, I won't go back, but if we got that right, then we could use those themes and interweave them sort of narratively in the rest of the score as we progressed. And if we got them wrong and did that, and Lucasfilm had feedback that they didn't like the theme, we'd have to undo a lot of composition at that point. So we need to get that right at the start. So we wanted to record proper orchestras for this. Virtual instruments are all right, but we wanted to do proper orchestral recording to get our proper style and quality goals to make it a favourable comparison with the film scores. So we did the John Williams score re-records, the Raiders March, the Peru stuff, and we had two main recording blocks in April 2023 and March 2024. So we would do, we went to Abbey Road in London, and we went to Synchron Stage in Vienna, and we did a few days in each of those twice, basically in 2023 and 24, as the composition developed through the game. And we had a few different techniques, but mainly in the second block of recordings, we tracked percussion, brass, and strings and winds separately as different stems, so we could then recombine them and mix them in-game more interactively. And in the first sessions we did in Abbey Road and Vienna, we did full orchestra. So when you hear the Raiders March, when you hear Gina's theme, you'll see some of this. We had the full orchestra playing, and the orchestra commented on that and said they liked playing together because they don't often get to do that with game scoring these days. And then for DLC release in 2025, we did some additional recording in Vienna as well. And those were mixed externally by a man called Steve, very friendly, and delivered as 7.1 waves and stems. And then just quickly, the additional recordings we did a 4-hour jazz band session at Ocean Way in Nashville in 2023, which I listened into from my mum's house in Scotland at 4 in the morning, because it wasn't really worth traveling there for 4 hours. We then mixed those in-house in stereo, trying to emulate how they would have sounded at that particular time period. And then we did some more diegetic music recording, like the oud, like I mentioned, Thai flute, and there's a snake charmer. I was going to say the snake charmer's in Switzerland, is not. Snake charmer's in Egypt, but it was recorded by a very talented man called Sandro in Switzerland. So here's a bit of an example, I think. I need to press this several times. Yes. I can make this a bit louder, actually. So that was the music recording, and actually that was one of the highlights of my career, actually, being in Abbey Road, listening to that orchestra play this content and play the Raiders March as well, because I grew up with Indiana Jones. It's going to age me a bit, but Raiders came out the same year that I was born, 1981. So some sound effect recordings. I've got some videos in a minute that might need to come down a bit, or put your hands over your ears because it's going to be a bit loud now. But so we did some whip recording. We did have limited success with our own whip cracking, which means I tried it and hurt myself. So we actually employed someone who knew what they were doing, a guy called Johnny Ergrian, up in Sundsvall. So he was a multi-award-winning whip-making champion, and he knew what he was doing with this. So we recorded this just north, 375 kilometers north of Stockholm. And I want to make a joke about that being a nice summer's day in Sweden. It's not that far off, actually, but it was pretty cold. So we did cracks and swooshes, multiple locations, multiple mic distances. I'll go into a bit of mic nerdery later. But the goal is to experience the whip cracks in a bunch of different locations and a bunch of different distances so that we can then recreate that in the game. And also some close handling sounds, so like close creaks and swooshes and crack and tension on the whip as well. We did a lot of Foley and footsteps recording. Most of that we did on location rather than in the Foley studio. And the reason for that is because we felt that we could get a more natural performance if we were doing it outside, get more natural results. But it is harder to edit. You get noise, you get birds, you get random onlookers in a Swedish forest saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" So you have to edit all that stuff out. And we're mostly using the Sennheiser 418S, which is a mid-side mic, which is really good for that kind of work. Most of the Foley, like the cloth movements and so on, was recorded in our audio rooms at work. And we did multiple characters and lots of different clothes and shoe combinations. And we ended up with about 14,000 individual WAV files just for the footsteps and the Foley. This is where the video might get a bit loud. So we also went to a Foley studio in Stockholm and adopted a hands-on approach to impacts and destruction. We were really inspired by techniques that Ben Burt's described in various documentaries, like practical ways of achieving the sound of being hit in the face extremely hard. The Foley artist there did actually hit himself in the chest quite a lot, which was fun to watch. I don't have a video of that, unfortunately. But yeah, we wanted that classic indie punch sound, the thud and the crack and the tail out. It was very kind of slapstick and identifiable sound. And we wanted to lean into the detail of any item that you could hit somebody with and the comedy of it as well. So in the game, you can hit people with spades and shovels and frying pans and spatulas and guitars and all sorts of stuff. So we had a lot of recording to do, basically. And then the breakables, you'll see me doing a bit of it in a sec. But we built that from a mix of library content and original recordings as well. So it kind of blended stuff together. So this might be a little bit loud, but let's find out.
Morning.
And not in sync. Here's a fishing rod first. That sounds horrible. Nice.
But
It's kind of
no, but that's good. Yeah. I like that.
it's really difficult to hold on to this one.
All right. Go nuts.
All good?
Yeah.
Safety first. Not every day was like that. I'm just going to go quickly through this one because time is of the essence. But we have a lot of swimming and underwater content in the game. So we went to an outdoor swimming pool called Badet, north of Uppsala. Had a very nice day there, jumping about and doing splashes and bubbling and so on. Then we did above and below recording, below surface recording. So again, we're using the 490S 8040 pair. And also a hydrophone called a Soundfish, which I thought was quite nice to get a kind of underwater sense of what was going on. This is going to be quite loud as well. We also went to a disused silver mine west of Uppsala. We have a lot of underground in the game as well, so we wanted to reproduce the reverb and the sense of space that you get in those environments. And also get some ambiances and drips and splashes and so on. We're recording impulse responses. So the thing you can see me holding there is actually a little a cap firing, like a percussive cap firing device, which makes a very loud bang. It excites the space. We record the sound of the space being excited, and then we can use that in a convolution reverb in the game. This also has the longest reverb I've ever heard, which you'll see in a sec. But yeah, just a bit of cave. Seems to be missing sound on this one. For some reason.
Have you had a nice day?
There we go.
I have had a nice day.
Oh, good. Hello! So I think that reverb tail was about 20 seconds. You don't hear all of it there, but I did have to stand there like a Burke, like this, for a good 20 seconds. Okay, so cinematics, a bit of info on that as well. Just going to go a bit quickly through this as well. So we had over 200 minutes of scenes in the game. We did our dialogue editing in-house with our talented video designers. We did our music editing and implementation in-house as well. And we outsourced Foley and sound effects to a company called the Noise Bureau in London and Berlin, because we didn't have the capacity in-house to do all of that work. So they did a great job there. So almost all of our scenes are in-engine and not pre-rendered. We have a few binks. Bink is like a pre-rendered video file, just for the travel montages, but there's only a few of those. So almost everything is sort of live in-engine. And we did our implementation with proprietary tools as well. So we have our own engine at Machine Games. We don't use Unreal or anything. It's all proprietary. So we cut all the sound effects and Foley, cut it into chunks, cut it into stems, and place those on entities in the scene in timelines so that they are positioned correctly when the scene plays back. Most of the mixing we did at our office in Uppsala, but some of it we did at Warner Brothers Delane Lee in London, which is a big kind of film TV post-production house. And there's a bit of a cinematic as well.
Give me that stone. Now!
Can't give you what I don't have.
I shall search your corpse to make sure!
Please wait. I have the stone. I have it.
Give me the stone. Bitte.
Gina.
Out of here.
Help me!
The stone!
Gina!
Haltet sie auf! Erschießt sie!
Hab dich!
So that instance of the Wilhelm scream you heard there was the one instance in the game, and we did have a meeting with Lucasfilm to discuss how many times we should use it, and everyone immediately said, just once, please. So that was agreed on quite early on. So then a bit about mixing in Dolby Atmos for home theatre, which is 7.1.4. We wanted to do this because, firstly, the console support it, but also we wanted a really immersive, epic cinematic experience. And we wanted to do the locations and the spaces and the kind of epic action justice. Atmos is well supported in Wise, which is what we're using for our sound engine, and on multiple endpoints as well, it's on PC and Xbox and PS5 as well. Dolby Atmos headphones is also a thing. Sometimes it's free on PC, you have to pay a license for it, but it's also kind of widely available. It does mean we have to have ceiling speakers, 4 ceiling speakers. So we have one Atmos room at Machine Games. We actually have 2 now because we just made another one. But it meant that authoring could be a challenge because there's only 2 people who have Atmos rooms and there's lots of sound designers making spatial content. So we had to do a lot of mixing and testing and verification in my room. And then also later at Delane Lee, they had a full Atmos setup. So we could verify that the height speaker was doing the right things and the LFE was doing the right things because we weren't completely sure until we'd gone there. So we had to think about how we wanted to use the height channels. We'd spent a long time working in stereo and 5.1 and 7.1, and suddenly we had these height channels as well. So we use ambisonic bass ambiances. I won't go into exactly what ambisonics is right now, but it's a spatial audio format which will, how do I explain this quickly? It can render to as many kind of speakers as you have in your array, and it's really nice for down mixing to from kind of many channels to 7.1 and 5.1 and stereo and mono as well. It's very mono compatible. So we did some ambisonic bass ambiances, first order, and some reverbs as well, but not everything was ambisonic. Spot emitters and random one-shots, so if something was supposed to be above you in the game, like a bird or a plane or something, then that would be on the height channels, random one-shots as well. And then some specific effects for more dramatic impact, like planes going above you or around you, the airship going above you, that sort of stuff. But we also need to avoid the height channels. And one thing that spread does in Wise, don't know if anyone's familiar with Wise, but spread on a sound will cause that sound to spread around to speakers close to it in the array, or to every speaker if you set spread to full. And if we were using spread in a way that was designed for kind of a flat speaker array, 5.1 and 7.1. So we had to be really careful not to have things like wading sounds and like bush interaction sounds coming out of the ceiling, because then that kind of spoils the effect that you can get from the high channels. So we had to really deliberately place some sounds in the kind of flat plane rather than the height speakers. And then objects as well. So objects in Dolby Atmos give you greater spatial precision. They cause a few problems. They're limited to 16 on headphones or 20 on HDMI because of the data rate that those things can support. Headphones limit is now increased after a couple of years ago. But the main problem is that any master bus effects that you put on objects like compression or limiting have to be instantiated per object, which means if you've got 16 objects, you have to have 16 instances of all those effects. So we had to be really careful about where we're using those objects. So yeah, we were just very careful about it. So we used objects specifically for the whip swoosh, because the swoosh kind of goes around your head and over the top before the crack happens. The crack itself, and attach as well, because you quite often use the whip to attach to something and then climb up. So it's really important to have that height information when it attaches. Enemy planes in a few different sections, elevators, and roof hatches, like stuff that would be above you. And then in the last 43 seconds, key learnings for me as an audio director. So for me, it was really hard to not be a sound designer anymore. It was because I spent 18 years doing sound design, and now I had a team doing sound design, and they were largely better at it than I was. And that was also kind of difficult to get used to as well, because I felt like I was kind of useless because they were better sound designers than me. But I kind of realized that that's not my job anymore, to do the sound design. I've got people to do that, and it's better if they're better at sound design than I am. If I'm the best at the sound design, then I'm just going to end up trying to do all of it and fail. Just general management, like everyone works differently and needs different support, and that's something I still feel like I'm learning every day. Keeping everything spinning, there's so many spinning plates and moving parts. People tend to forget about audio if you don't continue to follow up on stuff. So just being polite, but just being persistent about things. Delegation is very important. Setting goals and trusting the team to deliver. Like, tell them what they need to do, assume they're going to do it. Like, don't. You need to have a good relationship, obviously, but then follow up to make sure it's been done. Like, confirm that things are being done. And then, really important, don't be afraid to ask for more as well. So it was my job in this case to make the game audio as good as possible, and that meant making sure that I wasn't leaving any money on the table that I could spend on orchestral recordings or whip experts or high-quality sound design in cutscenes. So I had to make sure that I was getting everything that I could, really. Yes, good spreadsheets. Be good at spreadsheets. That's the key takeaway there. And then lastly, prioritizing, incredibly important to understand what the game really needs. There's a million things to do all the time, every day, and it's completely relentless. So you need to understand actually what's important for this game now. Who do I need to unblock? Who cares about this thing right now? Who's going to care about it tomorrow? Who's going to care about it next week? So yeah, prioritization is very important. Keeping work unblocked, keeping the team momentum going, keeping everyone's spirits up as well. Expecting failure along the way. We found lots of ways not to do stuff as we carried on. We weren't very confident when we shipped it. Actually, we didn't know what would happen. And then the reviews came in and we were like, oh, they liked it. Good. But it was quite busy, I would say. And also, it's really important to understand the risks and have a backup plan, like what happens if someone is off sick or goes on parental leave, or what happens if the composer pulls out, or what happens if these things happen. Have a backup plan and don't get caught short. Communicating and celebrating progress is really good. Make people feel like they've done a good job. Usually they have. Usually it's really good. And keep stakeholders. In our case, it was Lucasfilm, but production departments and people who control the finance and everything. It's really good to keep them on board and convince them that we know what we're doing, even when we felt like we didn't sometimes. And always thank contributors as well. Which reminds me to thank everyone for having me here, and thank you for persisting to the end of the day to watch me do this. Yes, thank you for listening. I don't know if there's any time for Q&A, but maybe? Yeah, a couple maybe. Yeah. Go on. Hello.
On? Okay. So I've seen that the audio team has been increasing along the production calendar.
Yep.
And my question is, were you, your team, expecting these needs of more technicians, or it was something that just appeared along the way? And if you were expecting it, do you think that there is it is common to need more technicians in some moments of the development than in others?
Yes, so we were expecting it. It's really hard to scope and plan a big game like this. Like, you don't know what's coming, you know there's going to be lots of changes, but you don't know exactly what the content is when you start. I did have a gut feeling when I started that this isn't enough people. So that's why we did hire a couple of people then. And we were also expecting, I don't want to use the word crunch, we were also expecting a very busy period at the end of the game, so we wanted to have enough contracting budget to cover that as well. And we actually ran out of money on that right at the end, for VO in particular. So that's a learning for the next project we're going to do as well, like make sure we've got enough contracting budget to cover what we now know is likely to come on the next title that we're doing. But yeah, it's really hard to plan. It's really hard to scope. It's really hard to estimate how long something's going to take. The only thing I know about estimation is that we always just get it wrong, but at least it's less wrong than not having any estimate at all. So yeah, we would try and build kind of scope charts and estimates of what we were going to build, and then see if it maps in any way to the number of people that we've got. So there's a lot of spreadsheeting and a lot of comparing data. And then if it doesn't match by a long way, then you've got a case to maybe propose another hire or contracting if it's like a very spiky bit of work, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Hello.
Congratulations for amazing work. And I have one question, because I heard the Wilhelm sound. Did you use any other archiving from Lucasfilm, the Indiana Jones movies, or maybe other library from Lucasfilm itself? Because you did a lot of work, and maybe you have Ben Bart and all the people from Lucasfilm, amazing, huge library to check and decide maybe you have, but you decide to do again maybe a different sound, or Uppsala and amazing in Sweden. But did you use more sounds from Lucasfilms, or?
Not directly, no. So we did ask for a few things for them to go back into their archives, which were all on tape, I believe, or at least they were on tape, and they're now kind of getting them into a more up-to-date archive. But we had to make a request, and they would have to go off and find it and give it back. But we didn't use anything directly. The only thing we would use directly is that Wilhelm scream, actually. It was really interesting to listen to the original recording session for that, because that's the famous one, but there's several other screams in that same thing as well. You can find it on YouTube. But yeah, so we didn't use anything directly, but we did use it as reference, and we would compare, like, here's the originals, and here's how it sounds in the film context, and here's how ours sounds, and because we know that players are probably going to compare our game with the film on YouTube, like within 10 minutes of it being released. So yeah, it was really important to us to get those specific things right. So we used it a lot as reference, but not actually directly. So.
Thank you. Tack.
Cool.
More questions? ¿Alguna pregunta? Another one.
Hi again. Were you on charge also when you were planning about the budget of audio? We were talking about contracting more people. When you had to contract more people, does it was using some money that maybe you could be using for another thing, or what kind of constraints did you have? You had then in the
So I don't know exactly how the financing works at work, but I imagine they have a gigantic bucket of money, which they have to assign to all the different departments and everything. So if I need more money for something, I have to make a really good case for it. And on the game we're working on now, I've done that up front because I have a better idea of what's going on. But on Indiana Jones, I was kind of assigned a budget at the start of development, and I thought, oh, that looks all right, that'll be fine. Until we hired a composer and looked at orchestral recording costs, and then I had to go to the studio head and some finance people and say, can we have twice as much money, please, for this? And so that was when it was really important to really sell why we wanted to do it and what value we were going to get out of that. So yeah, that's when the spreadsheets and the different scenarios came into play. That we had a low budget, low quality scenario, and a middle one, which is the one I wanted really, and then a high budget, spend all the money, but it's going to be amazing scenario. And we got the middle one, which is what I wanted, so that was good. But we did have to be quite careful. We didn't have the same budget as a game like Jedi Survivor. I think they had about 8 hours of music in that one, and we had 4 hours of recorded music. So I mean, it was good, but I still feel like we just got away with it in terms of how much music we had. And we had a Grammy nomination. We didn't win the thing, but we had a Grammy nomination, so we must have got away with it for that. So, but yeah, it was a bit of an experience learning how to realise that we didn't have enough and how to ask for more and how to get that. So,
thank you. It sounds like it's been a great adventure to produce all this audio.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fun and there's been a lot of stress as well. So the previous talk was very interesting, actually, like how to deal with stress. I was like, yep, that's how that's gone. So.
Okay. No more questions?
Cool.
No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
I think that's all. Thank you very much.